There is a profound and quiet architecture to the human soul, a hidden sanctuary where our deepest intuitions, our most delicate empathies, and our silent observations reside. Among the vast spectrum of human personalities, those who possess the rare psychological framework known as the INFJ navigate the world with an extraordinary sense of foresight. They are the quiet visionaries, the ones who stand at the edge of the present and peer deeply into the mists of the future, constantly calculating the emotional and practical trajectories of the people they love. They possess an almost ethereal ability to imagine how things will unfold, piecing together fragments of human behavior to form a brilliant mosaic of future possibilities. Yet, this magnificent gift is often deeply misunderstood by a world that moves too fast to see the invisible threads connecting our actions. Some people laugh at these profound hunches, dismissing their deep insights as mere fantasy, or affectionately teasing them for being overly sensitive. Unfortunately, when this happens repeatedly, it leaves this profoundly gifted individual feeling as though their greatest strength, their very essence, is nothing more than a burdensome joke. It is a lonely experience to see the storm approaching, while everyone else is still busy enjoying the sunshine. But what happens when this endlessly patient, endlessly forgiving soul finally reaches the edge of their endurance? What happens in the quiet, unseen moments when the ultimate forgiver decides to stop forgiving? Today, we journey into the beautiful, complex, and sometimes heartbreaking labyrinth of the mind to understand the deeply emotional and psychological shifts that occur when the boundary of grace is finally crossed. May this exploration bring you clarity, profound understanding, and a gentle peace to your own heart. To understand the breaking point, we must first understand the foundation. The cornerstone of this mind is a profound psychological mechanism known as introverted intuition. This is not merely a way of thinking. It is a state of flow, a vital life force that connects them to the deeper truths of the universe. When their intuitive realizations are repeatedly ignored, mocked, or invalidated by those they trust, they do not simply feel misunderstood. They experience a profound internal collapse. They begin to feel a heavy, suffocating apathy, a depression that stems from the terrifying thought that they can no longer trust their own internal compass. This is an incredibly dangerous and sorrowful place to be. For someone whose entire existence is anchored in understanding the unseen, losing faith in their intuition is like a ship losing its lighthouse in the dead of night. When they are pushed into a state where they cannot accept their own deeply held truths, they become engulfed in anxiety, chronic stress, and a reactive irritability that feels entirely alien to their usually calm demeanor. When anger finally pierces their heart, it is not a blind, fiery rage. Instead, they retreat into the shadows of their mind, desperately searching for patterns in their anger. They examine the undercurrents of the situation. Imagine, for a moment, that a deeply trusted friend betrays them by carelessly spreading hurtful rumors. While others might react with immediate shouting, this individual pulls back to look at the massive, overarching picture. They analyze the future implications, the hidden motives, and the long-term ripple effects of this betrayal. Their anger is cold, calculating, and deeply sorrowful, as they listen strictly to their inner voice to understand how this deep offense will alter the entire landscape of their life moving forward. Supporting this deep internal vision is a radiant outward-facing empathy, a function known as extroverted feeling. This is the delicate emotional antenna that allows them to adjust seamlessly to to the wavelength of any room they enter. They absorb the atmosphere like a sponge, effortlessly discerning the unspoken moods, the hidden sorrows, and the silent cries for help of the people around them. They carry an almost sacred sense of duty to maintain emotional harmony, to nurture and protect the vulnerable, and to ensure that everyone feels physically and spiritually safe. Because they are naturally attuned to the fragile ecosystem of human connection, there is nothing that disturbs their spirit more than witnessing acts of casual cruelty. They are deeply wounded and intensely aggravated by people who are tactless, mean-spirited, or unnecessarily destructive for the sake of their own selfish gain. Imagine sitting at a crowded family reunion, where the air is supposed to be filled with love and shared history. Suddenly, a relative begins to mock the deeply held religious beliefs or political views of another family member, injecting a toxic tension into the room. The empathetic observer does not just witness this tension, they literally absorb the discomfort of every single person at that table. They feel compelled, almost bound by a moral imperative, to heal the rupture. They might begin with a gentle, polite redirection, a soft word to calm the waters. But if the offending individual persists, deliberately destroying the peace of the gathering, a righteous anger awakens. When their core value of human dignity is violated, this normally gentle soul can suddenly transform. They will step into the line of fire, challenging the behavior with a sudden, startling intensity that leaves everyone in the room breathless, proving that their kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. There is a profound parallel here to the historical resilience of a nation that has endured immense suffering. Think of the quiet, enduring spirit of the Korean people through the long, dark winters of colonial occupation and the devastating ruins of the Korean War. For years, there was a silent endurance, a bearing of unspeakable burdens without a word of complaint, absorbing the sorrow of a fractured land. Yet, beneath that quiet surface lay an unbreakable resolve, an intricate internal planning that eventually erupted into the miracle on the Han River, a testament to building an impenetrable, thriving fortress out of the ashes of betrayal and hardship. The psychological journey of the deeply empathetic mind mirrors this cultural phenomenon perfectly. They will endure the emotional winters imposed by toxic relationships. They will quietly carry the burdens of their loved ones, suffering in silence, forgiving endlessly, hoping that their warmth will eventually melt the frost. But there comes a historical turning point within the soul. When the emotional devastation reaches its absolute limit, the silent endurance stops. Just as a nation decides to rise, rebuild its walls, and protect its borders with absolute sovereignty, the individual decides to construct an emotional fortress. They stop allowing the toxic forces to cross their borders. This withdrawal is not an act of surrender. It is a magnificent, quiet revolution of self-respect. It is the realization that to build a beautiful, miraculous life moving forward, one must completely sever the chains to the past that seek to tear them down. When the emotional chaos becomes too great, the mind retreats into its third sanctuary, the realm of introverted thinking. This is the internal laboratory where the raw, bleeding emotions are converted into cold, hard logic. It is here that they search for inconsistencies, analyzing the facts against their deeply held moral principles. They categorize the pain, carefully filing away the details of the betrayal to understand exactly how and why it happened. This process is incredibly deep, completely internalized, and utterly invisible to the outside world. When they are angry, they do not immediately lash out with words. Instead, they retreat into a profound silence to process their fractured feelings through intense, analytical thought. Imagine a scenario where someone completely disrespects their time, missing a vital appointment and causing a cascade of negative consequences. To an outside observer, the sudden, icy silence that follows might look like petty, passive-aggressive behavior. They might accuse this person of giving them the silent treatment out of spite. But this is a tragic misunderstanding. This profound silence is actually a desperate survival mechanism. It is the only way they can sort through the overwhelming flood of disappointment without drowning in the other person's defensive emotions. If they are denied this quiet space to organize their thoughts, the sheer weight of the conflict will crush them. They might break down, weep, or surrender to an emotional outburst that they will bitterly regret later. So, to protect their dignity in the relationship, they put on a brave, stoic face. They step back from the burning building of the argument, preferring the cold comfort of logic over the devastating fire of uncontrolled conflict. But what happens when the stress becomes so absolute, so suffocating, that even the inner sanctuaries of intuition and logic collapse? This is when the darkest, most chaotic phase begins, the rebellion of extroverted sensation. Normally, this cognitive function operates gently in the background, keeping us loosely tethered to the physical world, like the steady hand that holds a tennis racket, allowing us to react in the present moment. Because these profound thinkers live almost entirely in their minds, their connection to the immediate physical world is fragile. They often walk through life lost in brilliant inner visions, completely blind to the mundane details around them. But under the crushing weight of severe trauma, betrayal, and unyielding stress, this dynamic forcefully flips. The inner world becomes a place of agony, so they are violently ejected into the raw, unfiltered physical world. This is known as being in the grip. Suddenly, external stimuli become agonizingly overwhelming. The ticking of a clock, a bright fluorescent light, the casual chatter of a crowded room, all of it feels like a physical assault on their nervous system. To escape the mental anguish, they may drastically overcompensate by plunging into sensory extremes. They might spend money with reckless abandon, binge eat to fill the emotional void, exercise until their muscles scream in exhaustion, or obsessively clean every corner of their house until their hands bleed. They become hyper-focused on trivial details, lashing out with a brash, condescending tone that shocks everyone who knows them. This is a terrifying out-of-body experience. They feel possessed, entirely disconnected from their gentle nature, drowning in a sea of impulsive self-indulgence that they know will only bring them shame when the storm finally passes. After the storms of logic and the chaos of the senses have run their course, after every ounce of patience has been bled dry, we arrive at the final, irrevocable act, the phenomenon known as the door slam. This is not a tantrum. It is not an act of revenge. It is the silent, deliberate severing of a soul from one's life. While other people may cut ties, the intensity and permanence of this specific emotional separation are unparalleled. There are times when this separation must be purely emotional because physical distance is impossible. Perhaps the person who caused the profound harm is a coworker who sits at the adjacent desk, or a family member who must be seen at holiday gatherings. In these agonizing situations, an invisible wall of heavy glass descends. The injured party will remain polite, flawlessly professional, and seemingly calm. But the lifeblood of the connection has been drained entirely. They will speak to you, but you will never again hear their authentic thoughts. They will smile at you, but you will never again be invited into their inner world. They intentionally stop being vulnerable, stripping you of all privileges to their heart, ensuring that you can never ever harm them again. You may stand right next to them, completely unaware that to them you are already a ghost. The door has been locked, the key has been thrown into the abyss, and a cold, peaceful silence takes the place of what used to be a vibrant emotional bond. However, in cases where the betrayal shatters the very foundation of trust, such as the devastating end of a romantic relationship or the cruel betrayal by a lifelong best friend, the slamming of the door becomes absolute. It is a total erasure. They do not just walk away, they systematically remove every trace of your existence from the fabric of their reality. They will block every avenue of communication, silently unfollow, and vanish into the ether. It is often said that if you hurt this type of soul beyond repair, they will not waste their energy hating you, because hatred requires emotional investment. Instead, they will simply unknow you. They will take the love letters, the photographs, the carefully chosen gifts, and they will physically and emotionally bury them. Imagine a quiet afternoon in a lonely garden, where a small wooden box containing the artifacts of a broken promise is lowered into the earth. It is a funeral for a living person. To an outsider, this total eradication might seem deeply unforgiving, cold, and drastic. But it is vital to understand that this is never a first resort. It is the very last. For years, they piled the offenses in the corner of their mind, endlessly forgiving, endlessly offering second chances, until the weight of the pain collapsed the entire structure. If you find yourself staring at this closed door, it is because they looked at the bleeding wounds of their own heart and realized that walking away was the only way to survive the emotional bleeding you were causing them. In the end, the journey of this profoundly deep and sensitive soul is a testament to the fragile beauty of human grace. They walk through this harsh world carrying an overflowing vessel of empathy, desperately seeking an environment of mutual respect, strong emotional support, and a harmonious give and take. They are the quiet guardians of the broken, the ones who will patiently forgive 1,000 mistakes because they believe in the inherent goodness of the human spirit. But even the deepest wells can run dry, and even the most resilient fortresses have their breaking point. When a relationship devolves into a destructive, exhausting void that threatens to consume their sanity, the closing of the door is their ultimate act of self-love. It is a tragic but necessary returning to the light. It takes immense courage to protect your peace, to stand up from the table when love is no longer being served. If you find yourself identifying with this quiet struggle, know that your deep capacity to feel is not a curse, but a divine gift. Your boundaries are sacred. May you always find the strength to protect your inner sanctuary, and may you be surrounded by those who never force you to build walls, but instead sit with you in the quiet warmth of unconditional understanding. Thank you for walking this deep path of reflection with us today. May peace, grace, and enduring strength be with you on your continuing journey, and we look forward to sharing more profound truths with you in the gentle days to come.